Good evening, viewers and listeners, and welcome to this another edition of Serving the People, brought to you by the DRP, the Democratic Republican Party of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I'm your host, Mrs. Anissa Batiste. Please let us start as usual with a word of prayer. Gracious God in heaven, please bless St. Vincent and the Grenadines by helping our people to understand the truth against the evil ideology and political practice of socialism, that they may assert their God-given or inalienable rights and freedoms. In Jesus' holy name, amen. And now, dear viewers, this evening I want to talk to you and more show you about the nightmare of socialism as is recorded in the reality of the country of Venezuela. So more than talking, I'm going to show you the reality of the people of Venezuela under the socialism ideology in politics there. For many years, since about 2009, I have spoken to you about this issue, in particular when I wrote and published this book, Socialist Revolution from Grenada to St. Vincent. And in it, I explained to you the evils of socialism and why we should reject it. Here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we have a government who claims to be democratic socialist or to believe in democratic socialism. But as one author said many years ago in showing that there's fundamentally no difference between socialism and communism, and I quote Mr. Edward Griffin, he said, "All these people did was take off their hats that said communist, put down that, and put another hat on that said social democrats." But you notice the heads didn't change and their ideas didn't really change. Nothing really changed except the label. End of quote. So whether you label yourself communist, socialist, social democrat, democratic socialist, it's all the same. It's the idea that makes it so bad. What is the idea, or what are the ideas that make socialism bad for any people in any country? Well, we learned that socialism or communism is anti the inalienable or God-given rights and freedoms of all the people. Socialism does not believe that your rights come from God, and therefore it does not look at you as a human being with rights from God which ought to be respected. Rather, socialist leaders are more concerned with their own greed, controlling power, money, and the governments are usually very corrupt and engaging in a lot of political victimization of those who would assert their liberty of conscience and freedom of expression to protest against their evils. This is usually what happens. Also, because of socialism's lack of respect for the right to private property and all the other personal freedoms and independence that come with these rights, they usually attack people's right to private property. They usually destroy private business and enterprise in a country with bad policies related to taxation and also that encourage inflation or high increase in prices. Usually there's lack of productivity, great importation, lack of exports. Usually people are suffering and they're hungry. Usually you have a situation where government nationalizes or takes over ownership of private enterprises and seeks to run these things, but because they fill these organizations with a lot of party hacks rather than qualified people who can do the job and do it as experts and make it successful, usually these businesses under government control fail. These are some of the things that you will see in the clips that I'm showing you right now about the socialism nightmare currently taking place in Venezuela. Take a look.
The eyes of Hugo Chavez looking over Caracas. But now he's dead. And the poor living there in the barrios, historically his political base, have turned against the movement he created.
bread, medicine, toilet paper. These are just some of the basic necessities Venezuelans are struggling to find. The falling global oil prices have hit the country hard. Public services are disappearing one after the other. American officials are warning the country is on the brink of collapse.
Venezuela is in a state of emergency right now. Its currency has been devalued 92% since the last 2 years alone.
The amount of hyperinflation here is actually just unbelievable. You need a backpack full of money to buy a dinner.
Venezuela bet everything on the price of oil remaining high. And with government revenue 95% dependent on it, the plunge in oil has sent the economy reeling. As a result, GDP is predicted to contract 5.8% in 2016, the third straight year of negative growth. And Venezuela has the world's largest inflation rate, the IMF expecting it to reach 700% this year.
There were poverty reduction programs that were very much tied to political loyalty. They were not set up to be sustainable.
It started with a theory that capitalism is bad, a theory that private property and a division of labor is bad. One of the first things Hugo Chavez did was seize the land. He seized over 1,000 industrial enterprises, nationalizing them. He took over the energy grid. He took over the production of oil, which is today the only way that Venezuela generates revenue.
Now that oil prices are down and the government did not have the provision to save for rainy days, now Venezuelans are left with nothing in a country that only produces oil, that imports everything.
Venezuela could grow most of its own food thanks to large expansion of fertile land. But through the years, most of its agriculture has been abandoned, and other farms like this one have been expropriated by the government, and production has collapsed.
The government just lost control of the situation.
Last week, you'll remember President Nicolas Maduro had to hike petrol prices by 6,000%. So with all this, fears are growing that Venezuela soon won't be able to afford its debt repayments. In fact, bonds are already trading at levels that suggest a default is priced in.
Venezuelans in Caracas, the capital city, we have a very tough time accessing basic necessities, but the people in the interior of the country, in the states, in the province, have it even worse. And we're not just talking about medicine. We're not just talking about basic things such as toilet paper. We're talking about food, and that's where the situation escalates.
Lines down the block for just basic necessities, line down the blocks for public transportation that is insufficient, and then a lot of people talk about the toilet paper with the government setting up a set price so poor people could afford toilet paper.
Even in the driving rain, Venezuelans started their day in search of food, expecting to see the usual grim queues that form at government stores. Not today. The only stores with affordable food are shut. Closed for the National Workers' Holiday, the sign explains. It says sorry and thank you. People walked away empty-handed but full of dread, wondering where their next meal might come from. And here's the thing. These people aren't allowed to come back tomorrow. Food is rationed here, doled out according to the last number on your government ID. Carlos Chirinos explains his turn is today. His number is 5.
Cinco. Hoy me toca a mí.
Cinco.
Me toca hoy y el miércoles.
El miércoles. So he's saying that just today and Wednesday can he buy things, and because it's closed today, he's out of luck.
The things that we have experienced, the things that we have seen here in Venezuela are absolutely insane.
We went to some of the restaurants, and all the prices on the menu are in paper, and they taped onto the menu because they have to change it every week, and sometimes even more than that. It's changing that fast. It's really it's interesting, and you brought up the gun-free zones. That's the most interesting part to me is no one is allowed to have a gun, and this is the murder capital of the world. So we walk into the hotel at night because we're a little crazy. We're told by everyone don't go out, and we went out. There was no one anywhere. It was like a ghost town, and when we get back, the security guard is hiding behind a door because he doesn't have a gun, and the bad people all have guns.
The situation in Venezuela is dire, and it is dire in many different ways, socially, politically, as well as economically.
Irma is a mother on the verge of a nervous breakdown.
That's the result of 5 days without water. This is how we live now as Venezuelans. We've lost our quality of life. As you can see, we were middle-class people, and now we're not even that anymore. Just look at the kitchen. This is how we live now that we have no water. Now it's just arrived, so I've started the washing machine, and I'm filling buckets so that I can cook.
Water and electricity are both being rationed. Everyone is feeling the pinch.
Until last year, working 4 jobs, I earned about $300 a month. This year, working the same 4 jobs, I only make $100, and this will keep diminishing as our currency devalues.
Ephraim is a trauma surgeon working in Caracas's public hospitals. Free healthcare was one of the foundations of the Chavist regime.
These are all the bandages we've got, 6 little rolls. And these here are made in China, very poor quality. It tears your skin off.
We've seen food shortages, medicine shortages, now basic services, electricity, even water, that is not reaching a big portion of Venezuela's population.
This is what buying food looks like in Venezuela. Waiting for hours, hoping that by the time one hands in their allotted number, there'll still be food left. And this is what it feels like.
This is the greatest sadness because I didn't know this Venezuela several years ago. For us, this is something new, something unbelievable, unacceptable. It has no other name but catastrophic.
I left home at 4 in the morning. I went to several places for nothing. All I could buy is a pack of maize flour, no more. This has to stop. The one who needs to leave will leave. We'll kick him out of power.
Basic food supplies are being sold on the black market for 10 or 20 times the price supplied by the government.
Without the black market, the country would crunch to a halt.
At the supermarkets, the queues go down the street.
There is no even coffee. If they can find sugar, they take hot water with sugar in the morning, and they try to eat once at 3 o'clock to be able to sleep until the next day.
This is a true country in collapse. This is a hyperinflation and socialism reaching its ultimate end.
Government officials say the state of emergency will allow better distribution of resources.
The state of emergency has little to do with the economic situation. It's more to do with how a government that has lost all popular support, how can they control society? When you start asking about the alternative explanations the government has given, what they call an economic war, or the aggression, or the imperialist agenda, it does not poll, it does not even register with Venezuelans. So it's all seen as excuses.
The criminality is brought on by the government as a way to control the people. Like, we were driving by and our fixer showed us this huge building. And he was like, yeah, this is a building, a skyscraper, that's being run by a criminal organization. There's people squatting in there, and this is where all the kidnapping happens. But you walk around town, and there's government-mandated signs saying gun-free zones everywhere you go, and no smoking signs, while there's massive, incredible crime.
By some estimates, there were nearly 4,000 murders here last year.
You have all these are not only civilians and military and Chavistas in opposition, you also have criminal gangs battling it out. It's a recipe, as we have seen in the Middle East, for chaos.
The criminals here are running around, just doing whatever they want, kidnapping whoever they want, murdering whoever they want with pure impunity. Meanwhile, the government sends in their agents to every business, to every private place, to every public park, to make sure that everyone has mandated signs that say no smoking, no guns, and you can't be racist.
Venezuelans have to place our fingers on fingerprint scanners in order to buy medicine and food. They tell us that there's controls over your ID number. You can only buy on certain days. You can only buy certain quantities of food. So this all boils down to a model, a political and economic control model that has decimated the economic apparatus, that has decimated national production, expropriating businesses, expropriating the producers of food and basic means.
I have called for the armed forces and militia to hold national military exercises to prepare us for any scenario.
Yes, while his citizens are starving, Maduro decided now would be a great time to spend money on the biggest military exercise in Venezuelan history.
The military has become the main basis, the main pillar of support of the Chavismo regime. That is very important for everyone to know. What we're seeing, even though Mr. Maduro is a civilian, is basically a military government.
From my experiences here, this government here is run by criminals. This is a criminal state.
When we ask the people, yes, the situation is bad now, but how do you see the situation in the next 12 months? The Venezuelans answer, over 62% of Venezuelans answer that it will get worse. And over 60% of Venezuelans blame the government directly for the crisis.
Opinion polls suggest 70% of Venezuelans think President Maduro should step down.
He recently suggested punishing business owners who've ceased operations by jailing them and seizing their factories.
Las plantas que haya parado cualquier pelucón en este país.
An idle factory will be a factory handed over to the people.
The opposition won the majority of seats in the National Assembly last December, but since then nearly all of its decisions have been struck down by the Supreme Court. So now almost 2 million people have signed the opposition's petition to force Maduro out of office.
The question right now to point out is that we all know that President Maduro is not going to finish his term. There is no way under the circumstances that President Maduro is going to finish.
He's not going to go quietly. As a matter of fact, what we've seen since the December 6 elections, where the opposition won the National Assembly in a landslide victory, is the whole state, not only the executive power, not only the president, but also the Supreme Tribunal, also the armed forces, closing ranks with the president in setting up obstacles to that political change that Venezuelans expressed as their will.
If you, the government, block the democratic route, we don't know what could happen in this country, says Enrique Capriles, opposition leader in Venezuela. Venezuela is a bomb that could explode at any moment.
Where is this country headed, and can this crisis be resolved in a peaceful manner?
Well, I doubt it, because we have reached the peak of the tensions between the government and the opposition. And that's why I don't think there is going to be a peaceful solution unless the government led the democratic mechanism, like the recall referendum, in order to try to bring some changes in the country. So, and I don't see, because the government is trying to delay all the process, the democratic process, and trying to use some force.
What's wrong with socialism?
Nothing.
What's wrong with socialism?
Nothing.
Nothing. What's wrong with socialism? I don't have anything. I don't have any problems with it. I don't think anything's wrong with socialism.
Capitalist countries have always been messing with its ideology and trying to delegitimize it.
I kind of like it. I think the American people like socialism. I think socialism's great.
This is a pretty dangerous part of town. What are we doing here?
I'm looking for something to eat.
What kind of food?
Anything, whatever I can find. A dog, a cat, a pigeon. I'm really hungry. I'm really hungry.
Venezuela, a democratic socialist state with the world's largest oil reserves, has descended into a mind-boggling Malthusian chaos. The country has been engulfed in violence, hunger, and corruption, and is on the edge of total societal collapse. Venezuela's socialist experimentation has decimated the middle class, and most people in Caracas live in the extremely dangerous barrios of the city. These barrios are massive, crudely built claustrophobic cities within cities. We're here in one of the biggest barrios in Caracas to get a sense of how the situation is affecting the poor people here. It's a very dangerous place. We made a deal from the barrio bosses, so we should be safe.
Hopefully.
¿Cuál es tu aporte al rap? Sí, no es por amor al arte, no quién soy yo, es quién. ¿Te crees tú para comparar?
Are there times where you're just hungry? Your family is hungry?
Yes, I have been starving, and my family too. I'm starving. Sometimes my body starts shaking because I'm sleepy or I'm hungry. Most of the times we're starving. We cannot find food, we cannot find milk, we cannot find basic things like sugar because we cannot find any food. I am standing in the line and out of nowhere I pass out because I haven't eaten anything all night.
Food has become so scarce that people have to wait in lines, very long lines, in order to get enough to survive, just barely. What time did you go to wait in line?
I was there since yesterday, early in the morning, standing in line since 2 a.m. And all I was able to get was this can of milk.
All night, all you got was that one can of milk, of leche?
Yeah, this was the only thing I was able to get. My turn is Tuesdays. I have to be there Mondays by 12 a.m. to sleep there overnight. I just wait to see if anything arrives and then see if I'm able to buy something. My kids go to sleep hungry. Sometimes I leave them to stand in the line and I am there for many hours.
Getting in line overnight does not guarantee that you will come away with anything, because the lines are controlled by the government-approved mafia, with the socialist Orwellian name, The Collective. They bust in their own people right before the stores open and grab most of the food. These are bad dudes that care little for the common people. And these big dogs always eat first. And of course, they don't want their control of the lines to be filmed.
The collective movement controlled that area. They'll tell you that 100 people are in front of you. Even if you have been there all night and haven't seen anyone. They control the lines. They organize everything. And if they don't like you, they won't let you buy.
There are only two classes in Venezuela, the poor and the super rich. The income inequality is absolutely staggering. While most of the country is literally starving, the government-connected mega-rich are still rocking it old school.
Before all these problems started, we were middle class, but now we are lower class. The government is fine. They have their mansions, food, new cars. They are comfortable. We are the ones who are suffering. The people that have money and control, they most likely know a general or someone who's connected and they get bags of food. We can't have anything without the fear of being robbed. You can't have a good phone because they will steal it.
The one thing that is egalitarian in Venezuela is violence. The wave of violence that has descended upon the country has been epic. They have less than 1/10 the population of the United States, but 3 times as many murders. Caracas has had more deaths this year than Baghdad, and those are the reported numbers. The real numbers are much, much higher. All this despite the fact that Venezuela has extremely strict gun laws. This dystopian country has literally become one of the most dangerous places to be on planet Earth. While the violence is literally happening everywhere in Venezuela, it seems particularly bad here in the barrios. I know we got permission to shoot here, but it doesn't really feel like a safe space to me.
All the holes in these walls are bullet holes. I live in the barrio. We see people get robbed, cops taking money from people. You have to be very careful who you look at, because they can harm you in any way and even kill
Do you
you.
know anybody who's been killed personally in your life?
They killed my brother just to take his bike. They killed my cousin down there. 5 months ago, I lost my girlfriend. She was a victim of crime here in Venezuela. Someone shot her in the head. He died in my arms practically because of the shots he took. They rob you in broad daylight, even when the police are around. They rob
de
anyone.
Caracas y no hacen nada. Han robado por lo menos en parte de Caracas, de Capitolio. Ahí roban
The
a todo el
police,
mundo. Y los
even
policías
if the
están por ahí
crime is
siempre
right in front of them,
igualito
they don't
roban.
really do anything.
Caracas está bastante inseguro ahorita. Con la situación del país como está.
Right in front of us, a man was shot in the street by unknown assailants. Holy shit. The guy just got shot. Look at the cop. He's just walking away. Do you feel socialism works?
No, because if it really worked, we wouldn't be in chaos and hunger.
Pasando hambre y necesidad, pues, ¿entiendes? Eso no funciona aquí, eso.
No, if it really worked, we wouldn't be doing this. We would not be standing in these long lines. We would not be killing each other or risking our lives. In reality, this really does not work. It sucks. No, it doesn't work here. It's all a lie they tell us. The government doesn't do anything about it. They are just there to take advantage.
Let me ask you this. What do you think of Americans who want to bring socialism, democratic socialism, into America?
They would have to live what we are living, so they can see for themselves that nothing is good. So they see this is only a nightmare for us, a terror. I would tell the Americans not to commit to that madness because that is all a lie. They lied to us. We don't have anything. Crime has taken over. So yeah, it would be smart not to commit to that madness. I would tell them to try living here the way we are living now, to feel what we feel. We invite you to come and find out for yourself. Yes, my dear people. It is so sad and unfortunate that the people of Venezuela are suffering so much under the socialism ideology of Hugo Chavez and currently also the President Maduro. I am saying to you, Vincentians, all the problems we may face under government here in our country, problems of high taxation, high unemployment, problems of inflation, problems of crime skyrocketing, influenced in part by the problem of unemployment, problems of people suffering, can't get jobs, political victimization, not real and genuine, no real and genuine interest in the youth and advancing their future and so on. Problems of lack of industries and productivity in the country and we having to import a lot more than we export. We being bound down with so much debt, spending a lot more than we have and not making provisions for us to produce more and make more monies. All these problems are as a result of the socialist ideology of this government. And I have been telling you about this for many years, since 2009, during the referendum period of the constitution in this country. I am saying to you, nothing has fundamentally changed. Never mind, we may not have had a military coup or takeover necessarily or rule by violence per se of a government, but remember, social democrats or democratic socialism tend to try to use this stealthy, tricky way of getting their ideology into practice by getting you to elect persons whom you think mean well for you, but then when they go there, they subscribe to a socialist ideology, which is essentially against your God-given rights and freedoms. And I am saying fundamentally to you, that's why the DRP stands for republicanism, because republicanism is the complete opposite. It believes that the rights and freedoms of all of the people come from God, and that the role of government is to protect these rights and freedoms, and that government's policies and practices, when implemented, must not go against the rights and freedoms of the people, even if the people disagree with you, even if the people protest against you, even if the people petition you for redress for grievances. And so republicanism is still today, in a sinful and imperfect world, the best form of government you can have. And we believe that if given an opportunity, according to God's will and your desires, Republican-minded politicians in government are the best to secure and guarantee protection for your God-given rights and freedoms. The government that would put more emphasis on productivity, the creation of jobs, respecting everybody, that it doesn't matter where you come from, what your surname is, who your family were, who they supported in politics. As long as you qualify, as long as you show that you can do the job, you will be given the opportunity. And furthermore, we will ensure that there is equal opportunity for all to pursue the qualifications necessary to get equal opportunity. So my dear people,
We will continue to show you what we stand for as we get opportunity. We are grateful for the support that you give to us from time to time. But please, take heed and reject socialism in all its forms. Otherwise, we would become very much like what we are seeing in Venezuela today. Thank you for listening, and may God bless you until we meet again. Call 528-1015. That's 528-1015.